Welcome to Outside the Ring. I am here with my guest, rock star Robby Vegas.
Hey man, thanks for having me. I appreciate you asking.
Well, absolutely. Thank you for coming on.
Of course, anytime.
So, how'd you come up with rock star Robby Vegas?
I really didn't. It was my nickname in high school was Robbie Vegas, and after a few years in the wrestling business, guys started asking me why I don't use my music and things like that in my wrestling gimmick, and people started calling me Rockstar in the locker room. So I just kind of let it drift over into promos and being in front of the fans on live shows and stuff like that. And then it just
Mhm.
caught on, and I left it.
How long have you been on this journey of wrestling for?
Just past 15 years. This past January was my 15-year mark, actually. Long time.
Oh, yeah. So, for those, as you brought up a little bit ago, you're a rock star, you make your own music. What kind
Mhm.
of inspired that journey?
Kiss. When I was 5 years old, 4 or 5 years old, my uncle gave me a Kiss record, and that was really the end of it. He gave me that record, and I played it to death, and I got obsessed with music, and I started listening to the Beatles around the same time,
Mhm.
and I started listening to really a wide range of music after that for a little while. I got into Red Hot Chili Peppers, Goo Goo Dolls because they're hometown guys from where I'm from. And but the music that really grabbed me was 80s hair metal. So I dove into bands like Poison, Warrant, White Lion,
Mhm.
Winger, Vixen, LA Guns, and I fell in love with that stuff. And because of Ace Frehley from Kiss, I decided I wanted to play guitar. And then I started playing guitar when I was 6, and by the time I was 12, I wanted to be a singer as well. So I started singing and just kind of hit the ground running from there. I got into my first band when I was 13, and I've been playing live shows since I was 14. An array of things. Life.
Mhm.
Some of my songs are just about rock and roll and the love of rock and roll and the lifestyle of rock and roll. Some of my songs are deeper meanings of things that I've gone through or people that I know have gone through. And some of them are just ballads, love songs, stuff that you get, from the heart. And I just want all of my music to tell some kind of story and touch some kind of nerve in somebody. So I do leave the door open sometimes as to be open to interpretation for the listener, hoping that, it connects with them in some kind of way.
Mhm. What song do you think was the hardest to write, and then which one took you the longest?
I would say Break Free for both of those because
Mhm.
Break Free was the lyrics were different when the song was initially written, and they weren't good enough. So we finished the song musically and lyrically and recorded it, sang it, everything. And after a few more listen throughs, I actually went back and basically just kept the chorus and threw everything else out and started from scratch and rewrote the whole song again.
It's been a long time coming. I can't keep on running. It's gonna happen tonight. When I feel a little crazy, everything is getting hazy. I hope I get out alive. Out there somewhere in the light of the moon. Out there somewhere. Break free, it's what you need. You know what you want now, believe it. Break free, it's in my veins. I want nothing but blood.
Just to make sure that it was good enough for and people would step back and go, man, I really like that song. So kind of started it over when we were almost done.
Now, not only are you a rock star and a wrestler, you also are a podcaster of your own.
I am, yeah. I started doing the All Bets Are Off podcast about 6 or 7 years ago. I think May might be 7 years. And I interview horror movie actors, rock stars, pro wrestlers, authors. I've even had on cryptozoologists. It's fun. I really like it. I love hearing people's stories because I spent so much time on the road, and I am curious about how people got to where they got to. And I was like, I should put this on a podcast because I love hearing, meeting people and hearing their stories. So that's kind of where that came from.
Now, going back to your wrestling, you've been in all sorts of matches, whether it be
Mhm.
lumberjack, I quit, no holds barred. Which match did you really like participating in?
Oh, I think last man standing matches are always fun and get my creative juices flowing. More recently, I think my I Quit match with Jeremiah Richter stands out as one of my favorite matches I've ever had. Um,
Hmm.
Again, creative juices flowing and just my matches with Richter are always really good, hard hitting, and I feel like I walk away from all of those matches better than when I went in, and that's really all I'm trying with any match. And he's so good, he's talented, and so I really enjoyed that. Um, yeah, and I would say those are probably my two standout as far as specialty matches go. I've done a couple dog collar matches that were pretty interesting, and you have to get creative with those as well.
Hmm.
And I think cage matches are 50-50. They could be interesting, they could be creative, but I feel like they could be limiting at the same time.
Hmm. Now, who were some of your favorite kind of wrestlers to watch?
Shawn Michaels is always number one, no matter what. I love Shawn Michaels. He's the reason I got into this. The reason why I use the super kick. I never get tired of watching Shawn. I think he could have a perfect match with absolutely anybody. If you just started wrestling training yesterday, Shawn could probably get a five-star match out of you. Um, Over the years, I've also really loved Jeff Hardy. He was a huge inspiration for me. Jeff Hardy was like a rock star in his own right. I guess he still kind of is because he does do music now too.
Hmm.
Um, Chris Jericho. Jericho does the rock and wrestling and podcasting just like I do, so I love that. And Edge was a huge inspiration for me as well. So I think those four guys were always really big for me. Bret Hart was pretty big for me for a while too, but those first four were, my main guys. And then of course I bounced around with some of the greats. Like I really love Kerry Von Erich, Mr. Perfect, Jake the Snake, Macho Man Randy Savage, stuff like that.
What match got you hooked onto wrestling?
Probably the Iron Man match from WrestleMania 12 between Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels. I remember that being a really big deal as a kid. I don't even know if I fully understood why it was a really big deal because I was like 8 years old. But for whatever reason, it like drew me in. And then over the years, I grew to learn why it was such a big deal.
Hmm.
And I could still watch that match over and over again, which is crazy because it's 63 minutes long. But I could really sit down and watch it over and over and over again. So that one probably really got me hooked. And then watching Jeff Hardy win the title for the first time there live because I was actually in the arena. That was a really big one too because it really sparked my like, yeah, I'm still gonna do this. Like it didn't like die out. So I think Shawn and Brett kind of started it, and that match between Jeff, Edge, and Triple H like cemented like you didn't lose anything for this. You still got to try it.
Hmm. Now, are there any from the wrestlers that you listed, or maybe some you haven't listed, are there any wrestlers that you kind of pull inspiration from?
I think a lot of the inspiration comes from the guys that I listed, but
Hmm.
I find myself inspired to continue wrestling when I watch guys like Dolph Ziggler, um, Fandango, who I have a little bit of a history with, was always very inspiring. And just getting to work with some of the guys that I grew up watching, they inspire me in being in the ring with them and seeing how they work and getting a feel for them in
Hmm.
those kind of settings is also very inspiring to keep going. And, you learn from those guys, whether you've been around for 1 year, 15 years, 20 years, they know things you don't know. So,
Hmm.
wrestling super crazy or being a tag team partner of, Headbanger Thrasher or Tommy Dreamer, those were inspiring matches that I've had, but being inspired by those guys in the moment.
Hmm. Now, what was it like being able to work with people like Dango, Headbanger, Thrasher?
If I could narrow it down to one word, it would be amazing because Dango, not only did I face him one on one, but I got to be his tag team partner too.
Hmm.
And those were two different learning experiences. And I really got to see how good he actually is. Not that I didn't know because he was an inspiration to me before that, but he's so smooth, he's so smart, and he knows how to work. And it's just fantastic to get to be in there and just take a little piece of that and say that my career crossed paths with his a couple times as an honor. And same thing with Thrasher. I was a huge Headbangers fan, huge during the Attitude Era, and getting to be his partner and wear the skirt, which I believe he told me I was the first person to wear the skirt that wasn't a headbanger since Taka Michinoku at Survivor Series, which is really cool. Um, but that was inspiring because again, watching how he works
Hmm.
and how his mind works was just awesome. And such a great guy outside of the ring. And I really did enjoy meeting him and tagging with him that day. We honestly had a lot of fun and a lot of laughs. So
Now, what was it? Was it like to work with vets in the business, like Headbanger, Thrasher, Tommy Dreamer, and be able to
um,
learn from them?
the learning experiences with all of those guys is off the charts.
Hmm.
Whether it was Tommy Dreamer or Super Crazy or Dango or the Powers of Pain was a big one. Um,
Hmm.
it's it's one of those moments where you sit back and you pinch yourself and you go, I can't believe I'm in the ring with this person or in the locker room with this person and learning from them and asking questions and hearing their stories. Tatanka was another big one who would always share stories with me. We've done so many shows together, I lost count. But he was always very big on if you wanted to learn, he would teach you. If you wanted to hear a story or hear anything about him, he was willing to talk to you.
Hmm.
And I think it's made me a better wrestler over the years, coming in contact with these guys. And you go back to mouth shut, ears open, yes sir, no sir, because you
Hmm.
just want the knowledge. You want what they can pass down to you. And I don't think you could put a price on that. It's really phenomenal.
Now, for those who don't know, you run or help run the Buffalo Wrestling Academy. Was
Yep.
it like being able to run that and teach some up and coming wrestlers?
Um, Something I never knew I needed. It was something that fell into my lap, and I absolutely love it.
Hmm.
Myself, Vince Fowler, Dan Joseph were the three coaches there, and watching the light bulb moments go off when people get it, and seeing, the next generation of guys up and coming, and some of them are just so good right off the bat,
Hmm.
and even the ones that aren't become good, and it's really cool to just see their evolution. Off the top of my head, Adam Wacker and Groff and Matt McCoy, Cal Keaton, like I can go on,
Hmm.
Jack Isaac, because these guys are really they're going to be something. They're
Yeah.
fantastic, fantastic wrestlers, and I'm proud to say that they come out of a school where I have a hand in that.
Hmm. Now, reading up on it, I seen you work with segments within WWE.
Yes.
How do those kind of come into play?
I started doing those, I believe it was the tail end of 2018, and I'm still doing them. I was just there a month or two ago. It's basically, you get the call and you go, and whatever's asked of you, you do it. Whether that be a match or a backstage segment or an in-ring segment or a pull apart or whatever they need you for. And again, those are another huge learning experience. It was Bruce Pritchard who said to me one of my first times there is, we're not here to teach you how to wrestle on TV. We're here to teach you how to be on a TV show that has wrestling in it. And I never forgot that because I did learn a lot about what goes into the filming of these segments and how they work. And because of those experiences with WWE, I've gotten to do things on television with CM Punk, Seth Rollins, Kevin Owens, The Bloodline, Rey Mysterio, Dominic Mysterio, Rhea Ripley, and the list goes on. And every
Hmm.
single time I learn something different and new, and I have a good time doing it. And it's nice. It's almost like yeah, obviously I'm a pro wrestler and a musician, but when I'm
Hmm.
doing some of these segments and skits like the Kevin Owens skit or whatever it is, or you're learning how to be an actor too. And I don't think people give enough credit for those little moments, those
Yeah,
backstage moments that help move the show along.
for sure. Now I want to go back to this past Saturday
Mhm.
to SCW Winter Mania Aftermath. You had a match with Evan Encore. What was it like being able to work with him, considering he's someone that hasn't been in the business that long?
I like Evan. I think Evan has a lot of potential, and I don't think he's fully tapped into it yet. I'm happy with the match,
Hmm.
especially because I beat him. Um, but but besides that, it was our first time being, across from each other in a ring,
Hmm.
and I did enjoy it, and I do think that he does have that vein that he hasn't tapped into yet, where he can continue to grow and be a really big force in this business if he should choose.
Hmm. Now, how did you get to kind of working with SCW?
I was wrestling for Off the Ropes. I don't remember what city it was up in Ontario, Canada.
Mhm.
And some of the guys were up there at the time who are no longer with SCW, but some of the
Mhm.
guys that are still there were Chuck and Glenn.
Yeah.
And they liked what they saw, and we talked about it. And honestly, I thought that nothing was coming of it because about a year went by. And then a little over a year later, I was asked about coming in, and it just kind of all fell into place from there. But it all actually just stemmed because I was on a show that Chuck was on in Canada. And it
Mhm.
was just kind of one of those like meeting everybody. Hey, how you doing? Hey, I like your look. Hey, let's talk. Okay. And then just kind of stemmed and became what it became.
Mhm. Now, who is someone that you would like to have a match with in the future?
Dolph Ziggler, Nick Nemeth, whatever you want to say his
Mhm.
name is right now. He's a big one for me. I can't think of too many guys that are like on my list, so to speak, but he's a big one. Cristiano Argento is one down in the Pittsburgh area
Mhm.
of Pennsylvania. I think, at the moment, one of my students I'd actually like to have a one-on-one match with would be Groff and Cal Keaton. Those
Mhm.
two come to mind for that. Um, and as far as, I've always wanted to have a match with Adam Cole. Will that ever
Big guy.
happen? Yeah, exactly. But I don't know that's always been one that crosses my mind when people ask me that question. But I don't have a huge list because I'm actually open to working with just about anybody. Um,
Mhm.
but those are just a handful of guys that come to mind.
Oh, yeah. Now, say from your list, say someone came up to you, okay, Robbie, you can face anyone that you would want, who's your number one, and we will get you booked in a match with them.
Well, then I would add Chris Jericho to that list, and I would say him.
I don't think you'll make that list.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I'll give him the little pen click.
You'll let everybody know where they can find you at social media.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm probably most active and best on Instagram,
Hmm.
Robbie underscore Vegas underscore official. Or you can find anything else that you need to find on me as far as music, podcasts, socials,
Hmm.
and tour dates and all that stuff on RobbieVegas.com.
Hmm.
And yeah, I'm wrestling currently all throughout New York, obviously in Michigan, Pennsylvania, Canada, and wherever else, might give me a call. So check my website or my socials to find out where.
Well, yeah, with that being said, that's all I had. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for having me, man. Appreciate it.